Good morning. Buenos dias. Bon dia. Okay, we'll just go all three languages there. I did want to show some of the other members of our team. David and Aaron Clevenger are also here. David's got his shirt on, so you see the uniform. Okay, we're either a team or a cult. I'm not sure which. Down there in South OKC, David works as our discipleship minister. Aaron leads our children's ministry. And then Jason Corley recently joined our team as our youth minister, even though he's a full-time teacher and coach at Capitol Hill High School, which is just down the street from us. And then you see the rest of us and Connie there in the back. We've been married almost 36 years. Yeah? I got it right. All right, there you go. Okay, we're going to move on. So we're talking about reaching the world next door. I think you know, because you're a human and you're alive, that the world is already next door. I think you realize that. I'll just give some information about Oklahoma. I know we have people from other places as well, but this will be true of a lot of our communities in the United States. Obviously, Oklahoma City and Tulsa have large international populations, including Hispanic people. But smaller towns in Oklahoma, Guymon, up in the Oklahoma Panhandle, 55% Hispanic. It's because Hispanic people love to live where there are no mountains or lakes or oceans. No, there's jobs there. Clinton, 37% Hispanic. Altus, 28. Elk City, 21. Pauls Valley, 19. A lot of small towns in the Panhandle. There's actually one, I think it was Baker. At least information available on the web says that it has 100 people and 99 of them are Hispanic. Okay, I assume it's, they probably work more in Guymon or whatever. And then there's some other towns as well. And, that's just in Oklahoma. I know we could go around the room and talk about your city, your state as well. We also see other nationalities. Does anyone know what the third most spoken language in Oklahoma City is? I heard it, Vietnamese. So obviously English, Spanish, and then Vietnamese. So there are all kinds of, populations in our midst. The world is next door. But talk about the present reality for churches of Christ in the United States. I think this will be true of a lot of our congregations. It certainly was true of ours before we started what we call, I shouldn't have moved that. All right, give it a second. Reboot. There it is. Before we started what we call our new vision, that's kind of our code word for our intentional outreach to our community, here's where we were. You have the graying of the flock, okay? And before that was a book that was written 23 years ago. It was just becoming the reality for our churches. We're just getting older. And we're not keeping our young people like we want to. You're familiar with statistics that we lose about half of our high school seniors when they go off to college or work. They don't stay within the church, right? It's even a greater challenge for the Hispanic congregations. Jacob will talk about that here in a minute. Most of our churches in the United States have around them or near them a young and growing Hispanic population. That's just almost, there's exceptions, but all over the place. And then third, we have uncertainty about how to reach the Hispanic population. Many churches have tried efforts. Jacob can speak to that. And we always say it's not just a matter of let's hire a Spanish-speaking minister and we'll give them a room down the hall and we've done it. There's some other factors we need to consider, especially related to the second generation Hispanic folks. That's the kids that were born in the U.S. or raised in the U.S. who are Americans, who speak English, who have American culture. And so that's kind of who we really try to reach at our congregation. I put these pictures in here because they reflect what our situation was. This was around Thanksgiving time, a Thanksgiving midweek devotional 2019. That's not so long ago. And this is who showed up, okay? You see Connie, you see me, you see our young intern, Jonathan Vieman. And then you see some people with gray hair. Okay, right? And that's where we were. We were an older congregation. When I would preach on Sunday night, services. My wife and I were the youngest ones in the room by 20 years, and I'm no spring chicken, okay? And my wife's very young, but, I'm a little older. All right. Whew. Okay. Almost got in trouble there. So, give you some numbers here. By 2019, we were up to about 83 on Sunday mornings. We would have 2 to 4 children in our Bible classes. Only one of those children was from what we'd say an intact, mom and dad family. The rest, came with grandma or grandpa, and they didn't come every week. And then we had maybe 2 or 3 teens that sometimes came with their grandparents, that sort of thing. Sunday evenings, 28 people. Wednesday nights, 24 people. 1 child in the whole building. And we were not reaching our neighborhood. Our neighborhood in South Oklahoma City, from our building, if you go 3 miles in any direction, the schools are 80 to 90% Hispanic. Okay? So of school-aged families, 90% Hispanic in our neighborhood, but that was not our congregation. Since that time of 2019, I've done... and our ministry team has done 13 funerals. And so those brothers and sisters are with the Lord, and we're so thankful for them being with the Lord, but we miss them. And sometimes when a person passes away, you also lose the spouse because they go to live out of state or something with their family. And so that declines the numbers. We've had about 12 either move or become inactive. Did you guys lose anybody during COVID? Maybe some Sunday morning only people that weren't real committed and they're not there. We had that too. Yeah. And by my estimates, if we had not started our intentional outreach and brought on David and Aaron and Jacob and Savannah and Jason, if we'd have just kept doing what we were doing, we would have 42 what we call legacy members left, 8 of whom would be shut-ins, and would we even have 50 people in a building that can seat, if you use every pew, 400. That's where we would have been, okay? But what South Walker did have going for them is a realistic assessment of the situation. As our dear, sweet Beverly, our retired secretary, said, she was the secretary for 43 years, she said, "We're old." That's how she said it. Okay. So they knew that. They knew the neighborhood had changed. They had a long-standing tutoring program where they watched that population go from 25% Hispanic to 80 or 90% Hispanic. So they were aware. They knew. If our neighborhood if our church looked like our neighborhood, assuming a church of 100, we're more than that, but if we were just 100, 80 of those folks would be Hispanic, 10 would be white, 5 would be black, 3 would be Native American, 2 would be Vietnamese or Southeast Asian. But we didn't look like that. We were about 95% Caucasian, okay? But thanks to God, we have been able to reach the neighborhood. And so we had a church that was willing. They had the heart for it. And when we came with the idea of the new vision, they embraced it. I think that tutoring program helped maybe kind of soften their hearts toward the Latino community. I don't know if they had hard hearts, but they always seemed so compassionate to me. But also got them used to using the building and church resources to help outsiders, because that's been a key to our growth as well. Okay, let's keep going here. So in 2019, it was a theory. I put this up here because in early 2019, we had a meeting of interested parties, and some people from North MacArthur came over and just to talk about this idea, this new vision of trying to reach especially second-generation Latinos to better reach all generations and ethnicities in our neighborhood. And so, I had to make an invitation. And so, we all do this. We're, primarily white church, but we want to reach everybody. And so we get a stock photo from the internet to try to depict what we're trying to do. So that's what I did. I don't know any of those people, okay? I don't know who those people are. I just know they had different skin tones and ages, and I said, that's what we're trying to do. I'll put that picture on. Now fast forward from 2020 to 2024. That's our reality now. I don't have to use stock photography. I get out my phone and I point in any direction, and you see people of other ethnicities and other generations together in unity, okay? The babies just come to me. That's what happens. They come to me and they reach out. I guess I'm grandpa age, and that's not young anymore, Mel, because they just, grandpa, okay, whatever. That's how it goes, all right? And so I want to turn it over to Jacob at this point because, okay, how did we do this? How did we start reaching the Latino community? Hey, that's it. I timed it just right. All right. Okay, I want to hand it off to Jacob, who will speak to his experience growing up as a second generation, born in the U.S., but to Spanish-speaking parents. All right, brother.
Well, my name is Jacob. I was born in El Paso. I grew up in Arkansas, and God has forgiven me for all of those things, and I live in Oklahoma now. I am what you would call a second-generation Latino in the U.S. Basically, that means my parents migrated from Mexico to the U.S. My dad is a preacher. He's a church planter, a very talented evangelist, a well-known speaker all around Latin America, and he's very passionate. And so he came over to Hope, Arkansas to start a church there, and that's where I grew up. As a second-generation Latino, we like both things, okay? We're called, we live in the hyphen of Mexican-American. Okay, we're not Mexican enough for the Mexicans, and we're not American enough for the Americans. So we're caught up in the hyphen. So I love eating some tacos, but I could do a burger every day. When the World Cup's on, I'm cheering for Mexico, but the Olympics are on, I'm Team USA. Okay?
Our language is Spanglish.
And my language is Spanglish, okay? I've learned to talk everything, and it's just part of our culture. So as a second-generation Latino growing up in Churches of Christ, Spanish-language Churches of Christ in America, I've learned a few things. One of those is that when the Latino community comes into, surrounds a church or a congregation, sometimes good Christians will stretch out their budget and say, we need to bring someone from Mexico, Honduras, or San Salvador to come reach these people. Okay, and one of the things I've learned is that it takes that family, that ministry family, 3 to 4 years to acclimate to the culture of the U.S. before they start being effective in ministry as well. So their potential is stipend by 3 to 4 years, approximately. The other thing is that when you stretch out your budget to hire a Spanish-speaking minister from another country, you're expecting that man and that family to do everything. You have one preacher being the pulpit minister. You have one person doing the job of a youth ministry, children's coordinator, bulletin writer, graphics, okay? And so you have one person doing the job of 5 or 6 ministers. And that is why statistically a preacher, a Spanish-speaking preacher here in the U.S., if they will maximize their group from 50 members, and if they're really, really, really good, they'll reach a potential of a little over 100 members. Okay, and that's very limiting for the amount of Latinos here in the U.S. So there's a few resources that I kind of got a hold of. One of them is Dan Rodriguez's book, Future.
Next slide, Jacob.
That's the next slide?
Yep.
Okay. And what does it look like for the Latino community in the future? Latino churches here in the U.S. Okay, because we know how to reach the Latinos in their own country. What's becoming a challenge is reaching Latinos here on stateside. And so this book addresses some of those challenges and theories about what we can do. And one of those theories you hire a bilingual person that comes in and evangelizes the community around you. And so this person is going to reach to both English and Spanish speakers, and most likely people that are familiar with the culture. And more people will come in to this culture because of the skin tone. I mean, you look at Latinos, you could almost say they have some similarities in skin tone, features. We're all short pretty much, right? There's a few of us that are taller. But it's no longer a theory for us at South Walker. We're seeing some of the things that were theory before coming to life in our context. So one of the things that we're still question mark is how are we able to get other congregations to come on board with the same vision and start planting seeds so that they can reach their world around them, the world that has already been here. Now, you know, whether you like the subject of immigration or not, the reality is that there's a lot of immigrants in your context. Okay, and as people of the gospel, we got to realize that the gospel is for everyone. That's what the message was this morning. And when it comes to Latinos, there's more challenges to keeping our faith. So Taylor mentioned that for every 10 youth or teens in your teen program, 5 will lose their faith and never come back to the church. Well, in Latinos and Asian communities, it's 7 out of 10. Why? Well, because growing up, again, in all Spanish-speaking congregations, you grow up speaking English, and your parents want to force you to go to church in English. Well, you know, some things don't resonate. I understand my worldview in English. And so when it comes to faith, sometimes I don't associate certain things with the language. Well, then some people say, well, they can go to English worship, right? Well, many of them don't feel comfortable going to an all-English worship because of the culture challenge. Okay, I myself personally have been categorized sometimes. Sometimes I've visited congregations, and as soon as I walk through the doors, they'll tell me, oh, you must be looking for the Spanish group. They're right down the corner, to the left, turn to right, and then all the way to the end of that hallway, you're going to find a door that says Spanish language. Okay, but I speak English, and you know, I love learning the Bible in English, but I also love participating in the Spanish language culture of the Churches of Christ. So there's definitely some gaps that we need to fill in. And I think it's time for new conversations to take place. And I think this is a good place to start answering those questions. We need people accepting the challenge of reaching their community around them. Now, you don't have to do exactly the same things that we did, but you do have to question, how do we start beginning to talk about and answering these questions for our community itself? How do you become relevant to your community? One of my mentors, and you probably have heard this question, asked me, if you were to close the doors of your church, would your community notice? Would your community be hurt by the lack of the presence of your congregation there? Well, I believe that if your community or your church is around a community with Latino influence, then this has to be a question, how are you relevant to that community? And how are you able to reach others? Because, you know, right now, as Taylor mentioned, we have the third largest language is Vietnamese. And we're starting to ask the question, well, we don't have anyone that speaks Vietnamese in our congregation. How do we begin to open that door? And so these are new conversations that are coming about that I think are very important to our churches. I think I'm going to stop there for... Yep. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So isn't it amazing that two guys of such different backgrounds, an Okie and a Texan, can get along so well? You know what I'm saying? It's amazing.
same size.
yeah. Jacob and I are fun size. Okay, can we reach English-speaking Hispanics? Sí, podemos. We can. We are. All right? And it's in a good part thanks to this brother here, that brother over there, that sister over there, that sister over there. But we can. Now, I'm saying that to say you might need help. Because I started preaching there in 2017, and we were making some inroads and making some contacts, but the growth didn't really start until these guys came on board. All of the people being baptized here are second-generation Hispanics. They are primarily English speakers. Either most of them born here, maybe Gustavo wasn't, but or raised here and went to school here. So they are Americans, right? But also they feel an affinity for their Hispanic culture. We can reach them. We are reaching them, and thank God we're growing. Just some numbers just to show you. That's our auditorium. You notice the flags. That's something we keep up year-round. And all of them have a meaning. The U.S. flag is displayed prominently to the right of the speaker, as is the custom. The Mexican flag is next, because there's so many Mexican folks in Oklahoma City. Guatemala is an important presence in our community. And then all the others have a story. They have a connection. Someone from that country has come to our English classes or attends our worship. We started in 2021, average 70. And keep in mind on all these, since COVID, there's people watching online as well, and we haven't figured out an accurate way to count them. But 10 to 12 people every Sunday watching online. Went up to 82, 92. Last 2 Sundays we had 100 or more. Okay, and then plus the people watching online. Wednesdays, big jump. That's a big jump. Last Wednesday, 110 people. I'm going to tell you how we did that here in a minute. How do you have more people on Wednesday than Sunday? We're going to tell you. Okay. Here's our goal. We want our church's assembly to look like heaven's assembly. The vision that John was given of every tribe, every tongue, every nation singing praises to God. We're like, let's just do that now. Let's just get an early start on that. And so our methods reflect that. Our kind of work philosophy reflects that. All right. So we are one church, multiple languages and cultures. One church. Jacob has seen, and I've seen, and you may have seen in your church that attempt he spoke of to let's reach and we get our vocabulary right. Let's reach the Spanish people. Let's reach the Spanish people. They're not from Spain. They speak Spanish. They are Latino or Hispanic. And let's hire somebody from Mexico and get him here. And they get them a room down the hall. And there's some growth, but it just never really takes off. And they never are integrated into the life of the main congregation. Their young people don't stay. There's always that dynamic, that pressure of the parents saying, no, hablamos español. Inglés es del diablo. You're not supposed to. So there's pressure by the parents to say, no, we want you to learn Spanish and be in our culture. And they want to go down the hall. They want to go to the youth group. All the English-speaking kids, they're going to eat pizza tonight. They're going to go on a ski trip, for goodness sake. All these things. And there's that tension there. We're just integrated from the start, from day one worship service. Inglés con sabor latino. Okay, it's English, but with a little bit of Spanish thrown in. Okay, a little bit of Latino culture thrown in. All right, so when I preach, when David preaches, when Jacob preaches, we speak English, but we'll say little summaries in Spanish. At least that's my main style. The other guys do it kind of their way. And so 2 or 3 sentences in English and a quick summary in Spanish. That way nobody gets tired. For those who only speak English, they don't have to listen to a long kind of, when's he going to be done with the Spanish part? And for those who only speak Spanish, they're not lost for a long, long time they at least every 3 minutes or so hear something. And also on the screen, we have split screen Spanish, English. Okay. Occasionally, we have Haitian Creole, because we had a Haitian Creole couple start attending. David did the hard work of researching that language and putting Haitian Creole Bible verses up there. So that was pretty cool. You see on our signage, kind of our approach, a church para todos, a church for everyone. On the other side, it says una iglesia for everyone. Okay? And you see Sundays, Domingos. That's how our neighbors talk. They say, it's Spanglish. Yeah, it's you're speaking English, and then you trocar para otra palabra, and then you speak English, and then you just that's how our neighbors speak. When we put that sign up, Jessica, who's a second generation Hispanic lady, came and said, "Oh, I like that, because that's how we talk." She said it, All right. Part of our methodology, and this is how you get more people on a Wednesday than a Sunday. You offer English as a second language class on a Wednesday night. That's what we started doing. That was one of the first things I introduced, and we got that going. We've used student teachers from Oklahoma Christian University. If you wanted to do a similar approach, you probably may have a college around you that has a TEFL, teaching English as a foreign language program, and those students need hours. You'd have free teachers, okay? And so we introduced this. Why do it on Wednesday night? Why do you think we did it on Wednesday night? Kids can go to church. They can go to Bible class. We offer free babysitting. It's called Bible class. And no Latino person anywhere that I know of objects to that. They're like, oh, learn the Bible? Learn about Jesus? Yeah, let's do that. Okay. It was a bit of a shock when the family from Afghanistan showed up. Mom in her hijab, the girls, the daughters in their head coverings, and they all went to Bible class because their parents were here for English class. And we didn't talk about what we're doing on that deal, but there we have it. There we did it. That's our daughter Carly from North Mac. She comes over on Wednesdays and helps teach. This is the class just this Wednesday. There were 30 in the introductory class. About almost half of them were new. Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador. We have a lady from, I think you call it Myanmar. Myanmar, it used to be Burma. She's been here 10 years, and so she speaks some English. She goes to the advanced class. But the main reason she comes is because her daughter says, "Mommy, I want to go to Bible class." Yeah, there you go. There you go. So, this reaches, though, of course, the first generation. Mostly. The first generation. But did you know people have babies and they have kids? Yeah. And so they bring those kids. Then Jacob's able to be a great advocate to say to the Guatemalan family, "Hey, Luis, Cody, or attend our church, you really need to be raising your kids in a place like this where they can be part of the American culture. They need to be able to speak English because you're living here." And he's able to say that with some authority from his experience. And he has credibility. And they say, "That makes sense to me." And so they bring their kids to our activities. And then Miss Erin there, who works with our children, organizes all these great children's events. That's a big part of our methodology because people have kids. And so, I'm just always amazed by this photo. Just a couple years ago, we did kind of like, whatever you call it, a Pew Packers thing where you get them up on stage and ask them Bible questions or whatever. We have kids. We have children. This is amazing. If I'd have done that 5 years ago, we'd had 3 kids up there. Okay. We have culturally, appropriate events like Dia del Niño is Children's Day. It's observed all over the world, and you got to have a piñata. Everybody knows what to do with a piñata. So, there's our son-in-law teaching inside of the great beast, where Jonah was. Okay, and our grandson. Okay, egg hunt up there. That brings out hundreds of people. So all these events. Well, these events exist primarily because we started ESL. because we didn't have our own kids, very many of them, until we started getting some converts and some baptisms. But we had the English students' kids, and they would come, and they still do. All right. This has led to a baby boom. This is our church nursery with Miss Beverly, 80 years old, still getting it done. Okay. And you see some of these kids are Hispanic. And, how many babies do we have, Aaron, now? I mean...
Now those are all two.
I mean, they're...
3 babies.
Huh?
Those are almost 2.
I mean...
So now we have 3 babies in our...
Okay, 3 babies in the nursery and then 7 or what we call toddlers, I guess. Yeah. So, they grow up so fast. Yeah. And so that a big driver of the children's events is the things like ESL and some other things we do. Whiz Kids was something that was already done there before I got there. They've done that for 25 years. Ask me more about that if you're interested. It's a faith-based tutoring program that pairs usually an inner city church with an urban church, and to provide the tutors. And then they go for a little snack. Then they go for an hour of one-on-one reading, and then they go hear Miss Erin for club time, which is a Bible lesson. Okay, and all the parents are okay with that. They sign off on, yeah, that's cool. This is Zoe, who attends our church. She was a whiz kid, and now she's aged out of the program. But we have Elena here, who was her tutor, I guess, for a while, and Elena and her husband Steve always make sure she gets here. Now her mom, who herself, I believe, was Lucero born here? She was raised here. Zoe's mom was pretty much raised in the U.S., was very fluent in English, but she's really connected with Jacob and Savannah because of that experience, and Jacob's had Bible studies with her. Okay, use the building. We urge you to use the building. We always say, we don't want it just used on Sundays and Wednesdays. You got to mean it. And so because of South Walker's experience with the tutoring program of doing that every Monday, they were open to, you want to have the Lynn Institute, which is the nonprofit wing of Integris Network here in Oklahoma City, approaches us and says, we want to do a Spanish language nutrition class called On the Road to Health. And we want to do it at your building. And we said, okay. Doesn't, other than, the normal keeping the lights on and whatever, doesn't cost us anything. We don't have to teach it. But they let us get up there and do commercials about the church. And we're running the slides saying, here's all the events. We baptized a family as an indirect result of this program. A lady saw the slides, said, oh, you guys speak English and Spanish here, because my husband doesn't speak any English. Okay. And I start showing around the building, and I say, we go downstairs. We have a big basement at South Walker. And I said, it's tornado season. And so if you hear the sirens, come to our building. We open it up, and you can, take refuge here. 2 days later, the sirens went off. She brought her family, her sister, her other sister, all the family. They met Jacob. That started a Bible study. And one of the people you saw baptized and her 2 daughters, Maria Esparza and her 2 daughters, are members of our church. Just because some people that we opened our building up to, some medical professionals to come in and tell people how to have good nutrition and good health. Seems like a pretty wholesome thing to be involved in, right? And so we've had other things. Lilyfield is a nonprofit here that used to be Colorado Christian Services. They worked with adoption. Now they've expanded to really support families, to try to keep families together. They've offered a class on parenting in our building. And they're going to do another one this summer. Variety Health is a kind of a low-cost health place. We have a lady who's been attending for a while. She said we can do. I don't know if they were the car seat people. Yeah, car seat people. Have you ever tried to install a car seat lately? It's hard. They give you a free car seat, show you how to do it. So all these things lead to then conversations and invitations, and eventually Bible studies. We've done some things to, slowly update the building. Where your worst part of your building is? It's your children's area, because you don't see it. And it's got shag carpet in there. and you got to get that shag carpet out of there. And that's what we did, okay? So this room had shag carpet. We finally got it addressed, and we have this nice area to have kids' events in. The result is exactly what we'd hoped for. This united, multi-ethnic, multi-generational church. We are, on any given Sunday, about 40% Hispanic now. And I'll never forget Brother Benny, 80-year-old man, that he would do the count on Wednesday night. He, the big old Benny, come down the hall, doing the count. And when he came to me, and he was so excited, he said, "We have more Spanish speakers in the building tonight than English speakers." You hear the tone of voice? He didn't say, "We got more Spanish speakers than English speakers." He was glad. He was glad. And that's when I knew this would work. When I heard Benny say that, this will work, because that was early in the process. So you see by those pictures what's been accomplished. We've been talking a lot. I want to open it up for questions the last 5 minutes here, I guess. Fire away. Yeah, I will.
Yeah. About your worship service again,
Mm-hmm.
like you just said, you got 40% Spanish speakers
Yeah.
in your assembly on Sunday morning, which means, would you say the other 60% don't understand Spanish?
Well, yeah. So let's clarify a little bit. 40% Hispanic, 35% understand English, 30 are pretty solid, that they also understand English. But then, yes, the other 60% are mostly English speakers. Yeah, so go ahead.
So tell me again, when it comes time, let's say for the sermon, a 30-minute sermon,
Yeah.
right? So whoa.
Hey. Hey, if I can't be good, I can at least be brief, so I keep it brief. But anyway, yeah.
What happens?
Well, so
English or?
it's mostly English, but like my main points, I'll say it in English and Spanish.
Okay, because
Yeah.
you're the one speaking.
Yeah.
And you'll translate some of what you say.
Yeah, I translate myself. We don't use a lot of, on special occasions we'll have translators, Jacob or someone standing beside the person translating. We just find you do that every Sunday, you wear people out. It just takes too long. And so I just do it on the fly. Dios ama todas las personas en el mundo. God loves everybody in the world. Dios quiere que todos son salvos. God wants everybody to be saved. So you can listen to that without tiring your mind, because you're hearing.
Do you sing it in both languages?
Yeah. Mix that up a little too. And
Someone will be singing English and someone will be singing Spanish on the same song?
yeah, I mean, Jacob's one of our regular song leaders. David too. They can sing both languages. So yeah. Let me.
So we have 4 song leaders,
Yeah, at least 4.
3 good ones.
Who's the best?
So one of the things that I've appreciated is the heart of the legacy group. We have Larry Goddard, who doesn't speak Spanish fluently, and he's learned few songs in Spanish to be able to do the both languages. Now, when we do all English songs, we do songs that have the Spanish translation, so that if you're a Spanish speaker, you can sing along the tune in Spanish, even though the person in the front is not necessarily doing it in Spanish. Another resource that I've recently found out is if you use PowerPoint has this tool that will translate your message to any language available on their thing. So you can be speaking English, and then the subtitles will appear on the screen in Spanish. So that is another tool that I want to make you aware.
Yeah, we've noticed that the translation tools have gotten more and more accurate just in the last 5 years, for sure. Yeah, brother.
Say that I'm at Las Cruces where your son-in-law is. He doesn't speak Spanish, but we have this little transmitter to where we tell people if you want to hear in Spanish.
Yeah.
You can get these headphones, and then we have somebody that will translate.
Yeah, brother's talking about Las Cruces, where our kids are. They have the translation, and that, to me, that's a good accommodation if you don't have the ability to do it like we do. One reason we kind of like our way better is we are trying to help Latinos assimilate into the United States. They really should learn English. When I went to Brazil, I didn't expect them to speak English. I learned Portuguese, right? Now, we used English as a tool to have Bible studies and invite people, and the Brazilians love to speak English with us, but I didn't expect them to do that. So Jacob is good and can speak with credibility and to say, you know, you really ought to try to learn English while you're here. And so come to this church where, you know, 80% of what you're hearing is in English, but there's enough Spanish content that you're not lost. You know, that's what we're trying to get, where no one ever feels like, I don't even know what's happening. You know, that's what we're trying to accomplish. Yes, brother.
Taylor,
Yeah.
Great presentation. I was thinking of other congregations that are doing a similar ministry in town. Capitol Hill, Edmond Church of Christ.
Yep. We have Brother Tony
What
here.
are other churches doing?
Yeah, everybody has their own, slight differences. We do have Spanish-speaking churches in Oklahoma City. And wherever the gospel is preached, praise God. And it will convert people and it will bring people to the Lord. We do have a belief that for our context, you ought to introduce English as much as you can in those Spanish-speaking churches for the sake of the children. Have your youth minister at least be an English speaker. The children's ministry team or whatever. Because sooner or later, those kids are going to want to be around their American friends. And so we have a kind of a philosophical maybe difference with some of our churches, our sister congregations on that. So that explains that, I guess. Okay. Yeah, other questions? We get one more? Okay. Yeah, brother.
You reach out to the community to let them know about your classes.
How do we reach out? We have online sources. We have Facebook. We have some social media. We have a great location as part of it. Okay, that we can't lie. We are in the heart of South Oklahoma City. South Walker Avenue is a busy avenue on the south side. It's 4-lane road. Literally in fall of 2017, I went out and I put a real estate size sign that said free English classes. It wasn't even that big. The phone started ringing that week. And when I said South Walker Church of Christ, they said, ¿Hablas español? Oh, here we go. I got to learn Spanish. It's different from Portuguese. So, location is an important factor. But I do believe a lot of your congregations, you could offer free English classes, and you'll see people come out of the woodwork. Yeah.
To his question, so I'm one of the ministers down in Medill, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And we do have a
Yes.
service, and we're working on some things with that. But one of the things that we recently did was reach out to house, heart to heart, for kind of the community around us. Half the town is Hispanic, and so House to House offers Spanish articles and issues that get sent out monthly. So we did both. We did English, but on every English issue that's going out, we put a Spanish article on the back.
Okay, great.
But they also allow you to purchase like 400 minimum, all nothing but full Spanish issues. So that's an option too. And we're fixing to have our first one go out in March.
Yeah, great.
So we're going to see.
And guys, I had hoped to bring a list of resources. It was one of those weeks. But I have my card. I think maybe Jacob has his cards, and you can email us, text us, and we'll send you all the things we know. I know a lot of people are curious about ESL curriculum, and I can get you fixed up with free curriculum and all that. Yes, ma'am.
I've been to a congregation where in the worship service you're singing right next to a Spanish speaker the same song, and it doesn't change your worship at all. It doesn't distract you at all. But my question is, why is it so difficult for us to do this? Why is it so hard to integrate?
I worked at a previous congregation. It's near Tinker Air Force Base. Has a lot of patriotic people that have worked in the military and the civil service. We tried a joint Spanish, once a month thing, introducing some Spanish. And a dear friend, he's a good friend of ours, but he said, I didn't come here to speak Spanish.
That's attitude.
Yeah, it's a hard thing.
And
Yeah.
it's also the Spanish language preachers. They tend to be a little bit possessive about their group as well. And so, because it's their livelihood, if I don't keep a good group of people here, I might get fired. And so that has been a mindset. I'll tell you from my dad would always say, you need to learn the Bible in Spanish, because there's already enough English speakers doing that. That same attitude with teen events. You know, we've done an English-speaking camp for Latinos that speak mostly English. And they're like, well, why are you doing that? There's already enough English events that they can go to. Well, you know, it's a cultural difference. They need a little niche to grow into those other events. But it's from both sides. And I think it's just about having a good conversation. It's about caring. One of my sisters is in Texas, San Angelo, and one of the challenges that she has is for the youth minister to care for her kids, because he thinks that they're part of the Spanish group, but they worship with the English assembly. And so he's like, I just need somebody to care for my kid and say, hey, come with us to this event or that event. And so that's been one of the challenges. He's being invited by other friends to go to a different denomination, a different church, and he wants to go because they're friendly and they're inviting him versus the people where they're worshiping at. So again, it's just both.
And isn't change scary?
Change is scary. Yeah, change is scary. I know we're supposed to quit. Let me say one last thing. Fringe benefit of this approach, and Dan Rodriguez's Future for the Latino Church bears this out. You're targeting one group, the second generation Hispanic. Other ethnicities, other people groups feel comfortable coming now, and we're seeing that. People feel like, okay, it's not just all white, and we're seeing that. So that's another great benefit of doing this. Yeah. All right. I'll make myself available with my cards or whatever
make sure
afterwards.
If you want to know more, talk to them. Like I said, we support this effort because we think they're doing a great job. So make sure you take the time to talk to them.